Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's debate. My name is Ilsa and I am the chairman, and Matilda is the timekeeper. This debate will be judged by a panel of 3 adjudicators who are Miss Boyd Turner, Miss France, and Mr. Ivanov. The topic of this debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Concordia College, and the negative team seated to my left is from Sacred Heart College. The speaking time for this debate is 4 minutes with a double bell at the end of your speaking time. A warning bell will ring twice at 3 minutes, and a continuous bell will ring 30 seconds after the final bell. I declare this debate open. I call upon the first affirmative speaker, Amelia Murphy.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. We, the affirmative team, unquestionably believe that this statement is true. As the affirmative team, we define tourism as a social, cultural and economic phenomenon that entails the movement of people to countries or places outside their usual environment for personal or professional purposes. According to the Oxford Languages Dictionary, we define the threat to mean an act or statement that has the potential to inflict pain, injury or damage on something. We interpret this topic to mean that the increasing number of visitors to the Great Barrier Reef and surrounding visitors to the Great Barrier Reef and surrounding areas have the potential to cause harm, injury, damage to the Great Barrier Reef. Tonight, as our first speaker, I will be talking to you about how tourist activities, boats and yachts can cause physical damage to the Great Barrier Reef. Our second speaker, Nevada, will be discussing how onshore tourism can greatly threaten the Great Barrier Reef and how marine protected areas without tourism have been proven to be more likely to thrive. Our third speaker, Lila, will rebut and sum up our team's case. One of the world's great natural wonders, the Great Barrier Reef, stands as the world's largest coral reef system. Stretching over 2,300 kilometres, this reef is a refuge for nearly 9,000 species. According to publication from the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, about 1.6 million tourists visit the Great Barrier Reef region each year. As such, many changes are made to accommodate for this huge number of tourists visiting the area and interacting with the reef, which have been detrimental impacts on this sacred Australian landmark. Now to my first point, that tourist activities such as cruises, boat tours and yachts are highly popular ways to experience the Great Barrier Reef, but they carry undeniable risks to the delicate ecosystem. The Reef Research Centre reports that boats leave behind both chemical and physical pollution, which severely threatens marine life. Their propellers can cut through coral, destroying habitat for the reef's diverse species. Additionally, according to James Cook University, anchors and anchor chains can crush and break entire coral colonies each time they are dropped. A prime example of the dangers occurred in 2010 when the carrier Shenyang 1 ran aground on the Great Barrier Reef, damaging an area of 1.2 square kilometres. The ship was carrying over 100,000 kilograms of products such as cereal, flour and milk destined for tourist hotels and supermarkets. These boats only come to the reef because of the demands of tourism. Just one mistake, one collision or one spill could cause an environmental catastrophe, highlighting that tourism-related boat activities pose a serious and ongoing threat to the Great Barrier Reef survival. My second point is that water-based tourist activities include snorkeling, scuba diving, reef walking and fishing, all seriously injure the Great Barrier Reef. As stated by the National Library of Medicine, direct diver or snorkeler impacts include releasing harmful chemicals from their sunscreen, trampling corals, fin contact, standing on corals, and suspension of sediment. According to Reef Centre research, the carrying capacity of coral reefs have been determined to be about 5,000 divers per site, with only 7% of the reef being used for tourist activities and over 1.6 million tourists visiting the Great Barrier Reef region each year. This popular tourist activity causes significant environmental deterioration to the reef. Additionally, fishing, a common tourist activity, can seriously harm the ecosystem of the Great Barrier Reef. Although on a smaller scale to commercial fishing, interacting with marine life and removing fish from their natural environment can disrupt their food chain and impact the long-term behaviour of different fish species. Thus, it is evident seemingly harmless tourism activities add up over time to seriously harm the Great Barrier Reef. In conclusion, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it is undeniable that tourism, while bringing joy to many, is pushing the Great Barrier Reef closer to the brink of irreversible damage. Thank you.
call upon the first negative speaker, Alina Guru.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. We agree with the definition given by the Affirmative team. However, we strongly believe that this statement is false. Imagine you're on a boat floating on the crystal clear water and you're in your snorkeling gear. You look back and see the hundreds of happy families sitting on the sand and having a great time. It's the best thing you've ever seen. Guess what? You're on a holiday in the Great Barrier Reef. We believe that a sight so wonderful, something that is so heavily treasured, should be shared. We believe tourism is not a threat. Instead, it is a way to share and provide people with one-of-a-kind experiences that inspire them to care more for Mother Nature. Today's first speaker, I'll be talking to you about the benefits that tourism has for research focused on the Great Barrier Reef, and that tourism is not dangerous for the Great Barrier Reef as long as it's responsible, because that means it's sustainable. Our second speaker will explain to you how tourism in the Great Barrier Reef stimulates the economy, and that tourism creates generations of eco-warriors. Our third speaker will rebut and some of our team case. The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that tourist activities can cause physical damage to the reef. However, we disagree with this because we believe that there are actually rules and regulations that are implemented and heavily enforced to stop any damage happening. There are strict fines that can put people in debt for their whole lives that stop them from acting out. Now to my first point. Tourism in the Great Barrier Reef is essential for its longevity. Why? Because tourism guarantees interest and interest guarantees research opportunities. The revenue generated from tourism, including entrance fees, permits, and donations, contribute directly to funding scientific research that allows for in-depth studies of the reef and surrounding marine life. The data gathered helps in understanding the reef's condition and in developing effective conservation strategies. According to the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority website, in the last decade alone, $50 million from tourism revenue has been used to fund scientific research. This has actually resulted in the advancement of coral reef restoration techniques and environmental monitoring. That's right, tourism has actually extended the life of the suffering Great Barrier Reef. This brings me to my second point. Australian tourism is not a threat to the Great Barrier Reef as long as it's responsible, because it can actually be sustainable. There are already rules and regulations in place to ensure the safety of the Great Barrier Reef. In 1981, UNESCO listed the reef as a World Heritage Site due to its scientific and environmental importance, causing the development of protective laws from the Queensland Government. These laws include rules on anchoring, waste management, and interactions with marine life, which are all crucial for minimising the environmental impact. The Australian Department for Climate Change has stated that most tourism operators actually operate at a higher standard than they are legally required to. According to the website greatbarrierreef.com.au, there are fines that range from $470,000 to $700,000 if an individual is caught willfully damaging the reef. This amount of money is nearly the same as the price of an average Australian home. Due to consequences like this, tourists choose not to act out. I mean, would you take a piece of coral that's going to put you in as much debt as having a second mortgage? Swimming in the reef is not what causes it damage, nor does the small-scale recreational fishing, which is heavily regulated by the Marine Authority. Climate change is causing concerning damage to the reef. So this is the issue that needs to be addressed and focused on, not tourism. If anything, visitors to the reef should be taught about the real threat, our climate. Did you actually know that the Great Barrier Reef is roughly the same size as Italy? Given it's the same size of a European country that actually has a population of 58 million people, you can assume that there isn't enough space for people to visit. With the reef being this size, zoning plans are used to help distribute tourist activity and prohibit people from visiting vulnerable and sensitive marine areas. Through responsible and sustainable tourism practices, the Great Barrier Reef is both enjoyed, preserved and cared for, ensuring that its natural beauty and ecological health are guaranteed for future generations. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the negative team have left you with a clear message that tourism is not a threat, it is actually a blessing for the Great Barrier Reef. Tourism is an opportunity for growth, learning, funding, research and preservation. There are always risks when humans come into... So we the negative team leave you with this message. Insight is in mind. Tourism is the lifeline of the reef.
the second affirmative speaker, Nevada Mayo.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. We, the affirmative team, undoubtedly believe that this statement is true. The first speaker on the negative team have tried to tell you that tourism is becoming more ecologically friendly. This is fundamentally wrong because for the Queensland Government to be investing time and money into making tourism more ecologically friendly, they must first have to come to the conclusion that tourism has the potential to harm the reef and cause threat. Additionally, tourism in any shape or form at its core, interacting with the reef, interacting with the natural environment, whether it be more ecologically friendly or not, it still has the potential to cause harm to the reef. Therefore, tourism is not a threat. Tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. Our first speaker, Amelia, has already talked to you about how tourist activities, boats and yachts, can cause physical damage to the Great Barrier Reef, and how tourists are endangering fish and other marine life. I, as your second speaker, will be talking to you about how onshore tourism can greatly threaten the Great Barrier Reef, and how marine protected areas without tourism have been proven more likely to thrive. Our third speaker, Lila, will rebut and sum up our team's case. Now to my first point. Onshore tourism can greatly threaten the Great Barrier Reef. With the rising numbers of tourists visiting the area, there is pressure placed upon the Queensland Government to develop the area so it can adequately accommodate these tourists. This means increasing amounts of construction activities to build and develop infrastructure, such as hotels and resorts, to build up this popular holiday destination. According to the Reef Research Centre, the construction of tourism developments, particularly in areas close to the marina, can result in sediment runoff, vegetation damage, loss of wildlife habitat, and significant coral bleaching to the reef. In addition to this, when these hotels are operating, a study from Earth Justice found that many coastal hotels dump their grey water into the ocean, contributing to the sedimentation and the contamination of coral reefs. Despite legislation monitoring the amount of sewage that can be released into the reef, the fact remains, it still is. Sewage and grey water still does not enter this natural ecosystem, this foreign substance that erodes away at precious coral, disrupting the reef's natural balance. Tourism is not just limited to direct interactions with the reef. Even visitations to the area can put pressure on the reef and threaten its natural healthy state. Therefore, tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. Now to my second point. Marine protected areas without tourism have been proven more likely to thrive. According to the Marine Stewardship Council, on average, fully protected areas can increase the total of biomass of marine life by more than 400%. Take the Cabo Plumo National Park in Mexico. This was once a heavily overfished area with declining fish stocks and damaged coral reefs. However, in 1995, this was established as a no-take marine reserve with a complete ban on fishing activities. Over 2 decades, the park has transformed into a thriving natural habitat with 463% increase in biomass of fish species. This shows how conservation can benefit both ecosystems and local communities. Further, look at French Polynesia. According to Ocean Legacy, after the implementation of marine protected areas where no boats, fishing, swimming or tourism can occur, the marine ecosystem harbors more than 20 species of sharks, an exceptionally healthy coral reef system that supports 176 coral and 1,024 fish species. This reveals that tourism in any shape or form can pose a threat to the reef. The Great Barrier Reef is a natural wonder, a landscape not designed for human interaction or interference. In conclusion, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, tourism is undeniably a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. Thank you.
the second negative speaker, Archie Cranston.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. We, the negative team, believe this statement is false. The first speaker has tried to tell you that snorkeling damages coral. While this may be true, snorkeling, if managed correctly, shouldn't really damage the reef, as you would only do sightseeing of the coral. There is a standing law stating that if coral was damaged, stolen, or destroyed, there will be a grave punishment up to $700,000 fine, which could ruin someone's life. So tourists know to back off. The second speaker has tried to tell you that the developing infrastructure around the reef can destroy habitats. Although this may be true, modern tourism is increasing to become sustainable and providing sustainable infrastructures. There is also the fact that there is commonly assessments before major infrastructure designs are approved. This can help spot unforeseen environment impacts before going ahead. Our first speaker has already stated that tourism on the Great Barrier Reef allows for research opportunities, and tourism is not a threat as long as it is responsible, as responsible tourism is sustainable. Today, I'll be talking to you about 2 points. My first point is that the tourism industry is the financial lifeline for the locals and the reef alike. The Great Barrier Reef is a World Heritage listed natural wonder of the world. This beautiful ecosystem is 348,000 kilometres of pristine ocean, exotic marine life, and tropical weather. It's a hard pill to swallow, but we must acknowledge that the Great Barrier Reef is as beautiful as it is fragile. Operators on the reef are desperate to preserve it, with many striving to be acknowledged for their care of the Australian government. In fact, the Australian Marine Park Authority has a list of high-standard tourism operators who are recognised for their care of the reef. This also allows travellers to be more informed about the decisions that they make. These operators who show such high standards financially benefit and further stimulate the Queensland economy. Over 64,000 jobs are to be worked in the Great Barrier Reef, which keeps locals employed in the region. The more tourists that come in, the more workers there are protecting this reef from any harm. Commercial overfishing, illegal fishing, and harm to endangered marine species is minimised when tourists have the power to report suspicious behaviour. The Great Barrier Reef also sustains the local community who care for it. Tourists with disposable income spend thousands, which brings me to my final point. Great Barrier Reef supports local businesses, and businesses support the reef. Each year, the reef attracts $6.4 billion, keeping people alive on the coastline and marine life healthy in the water. If people weren't able to visit the reef, it's more clear harm would be done to the economy, as people are left without job opportunities or lucrative reasons to care for the reef. Now to my second point. This lucrative tourism industry then creates generations of marine eco-warriors. Tourism not only fosters great care for the Great Barrier Reef, but also inspires future eco-warriors. Take, for instance, Claire Barr, an alumni from James Cook University. Her deep connection to the Great Barrier Reef began when she visited Cairns with her family as a young child. She was mesmerised by the kaleidoscope of colours produced by the reef's 3,000 marine species, including clownfish, vibrant colours, sharks, and whales. Claire's fascination led to a pursuit of a Bachelor of Science with a specialisation in marine biology. Reflecting on her academic journey, she remarked, "I love the research teams and labs I've been involved in. Everything from swimming with minke whales in the northern Great Barrier Reef to working with baby seahorses has provided so many incredible opportunities." Her enthusiasm as a Great Barrier Reef tourist, combined with her positive experience at JCU, highlights how a single visit can ignite a lifelong passion for marine conservation. Tourism, when managed responsibly. It is not a threat to the Great Barrier Reef, rather it protects and preserves the reef. Generations of children are inspired to take on research and find new ways of protecting the reef. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, why do we want to vilify people for visiting the reef when they may be the next generation to protect it? It is clear that tourism is in fact essential for the reef conservation. We, the negative team, say, insight is in mind, tourism is the lifeline of the reef.
call upon the third affirmative speaker, Lila Harris.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef, in which we, the affirmative team, wholeheartedly believe this statement is true. I will now highlight the flaws in my opposition's case. The first speaker has attempted to inform you that tourism to the Great Barrier Reef drives conservation research. However, although tourism generates funding for conservation research, the detrimental effects of mass tourism far outweighs these benefits. Research funded by tourism often highlights the damage inflicted by tourists, as demonstrated in a report by the Australian Institute of Marine Science, which found that tourism-related activities contribute to reef degradation and coral bleaching. Moreover, alternative funding mechanisms such as government grants and private donations can provide financial support without exacerbating the environmental pressures caused by increased tourism. For example, the National Geography Society has successfully funded reef conservation projects without relying on tourism dollars. The first speaker has also claimed that there are many strict regulations in place. But do these rules really eliminate the threat? The reality is, even with guidelines, the large volume of tourists with boats increase the likelihood of accidents, pollution, and damage to the reef. For instance, what happens when a snorkeler accidentally breaks fragile coral or a piece of plastic escapes from a boat tour in the ocean? Even with these regulations, mistakes simply still occur. According to a study conducted by Science Directly, tourism and regulations are factors contributing to increased litter load on beaches in summer months. Regulations just simply not mean that all of a sudden all threats are eliminated. Furthermore, can we be more sure that every operator will follow these rules? Enforcement is challenging across such a vast area, leaving the reef vulnerable despite the best efforts to regulate tourism. The second speaker has claimed that tourism contributes to the economy. However, this argument overlooks the crucial reality. No amount of economic gain is worth the irreversible destruction of the Great Barrier Reef. The reef is not just a tourist attraction. It's a living ecosystem that supports thousands of marine species and sustains livelihood far beyond the tourism industry. According to the Australian Institute of Marine Science, coral cover over the Great Barrier Reef has declined more than 50% since 1985, with tourism-related activities such as boat anchors, snorkeling, and diving directly contributing to this degradation. If we allow tourism to contribute at its current pace, we are essentially cashing in a resource that is rapidly deteriorating. Once the reef is gone, so are the jobs and revenue that is stream dependent on it. The second speaker has also claimed that tourists are able to be eco-warriors. However, this is simply a flawed argument because it fails to acknowledge that although tourists may leave with a greater appreciation or education for marine ecosystems, it does not deny the truth that the environmental damage caused by their visit. The immediate impact of tourism caused by physical damage to coral reefs and pollution from boats often outweigh any long-term potential benefits of increased environmental awareness. According to research published by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, tourism activities lead to significant coral degradation and contribute to pollution that harms marine life. So, to sum up our affirmative team, our first speaker spoke to you about how tourist activities, such as the use of boats, yachts, snorkeling and scuba diving, can cause indisputable damage to the Great Barrier Reef, such as coral degradation. Additionally, she explained how tourists are endangering fish and other marine life. Our second speaker spoke to you about how tourists require construction activities to build and develop infrastructure such as hotels, which has a detrimental impact. Her second point was that marine protected areas without tourism have been proven to be more likely to thrive. According to Marine Stewardship Council, on average, fully protected areas can increase the total biomass of marine life by more than 400%. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we, the affirmative team, believe that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Liam Burke.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The
topic for our debate is that tourism is a threat to the Great Barrier Reef. We, the Native team, strongly believe that this statement is false. The first speaker has tried to tell you that tourism can lead to physical damage of the coral on the reef. Although improper practices on the reef can damage coral, tourism on the Great Barrier Reef can minimise such risk. Certified tour operators use mooring buoys instead of anchors so that coral will remain untouched. They educate drivers on how to avoid contact with coral and where the high-rise areas are, and limit visitors' numbers in sensitive areas, ensuring the coral's protection. The first speaker has also tried to say that tourism creates pollution. While it is possible that tourism could contribute to pollution, it's important to recognise that effective management and regulations are in place to mitigate these impacts. Many popular tourist destinations around the Great Barrier Reef have implemented strict environmental guidelines to reduce pollution. For example, there are strict regulations on waste disposal and measures to prevent oil spills and sewage discharge. Additionally, many eco-friendly tour operators use sustainable practices to minimise their environmental footprint. The revenue generated from tourism often supports clean-up initiatives and the development of technologies designed to reduce pollution. By enforcing these rules and investing in green technologies, tourism can be managed in a way that minimises its environmental impact and helps protect the Great Barrier Reef. The second speaker has tried to tell you that Mexico had success with their marine park. However, while this statistic may be true, it talks about all reefs in Mexico, meaning that this statistic does not specifically address the topic at hand. Therefore, whether or not this statistic is true for the Great Barrier Reef is unknown. The second speaker has also tried to tell you that tourism can create economic pressure. We disagree, as it happens in reverse. The revenue generated can actually alleviate pressure on companies that have negative effect, having less pressure on the reef. The third speaker has tried to tell you that tourism causes overcrowding. While tourism can sometimes lead to overcrowding, effective management strategies can help mitigate this issue. Many popular spots within the Great Barrier Reef have implemented measures to control visitor numbers and reduce congestion. These include booking systems, timed entry, and visitor caps to ensure that the reef's delicate ecosystems are not overwhelmed. Additionally, by promoting less visited areas and encouraging off-peak travel, tourism can be more evenly distributed, alleviating pressure on the most crowded sites. The third speaker has also tried to convince you that the government can fund research. We do not agree with this because the government has more important issues to fund, like homelessness, education and Medicare. The Australian government has to put their citizens first and their mental health first. Our first speaker has already spoken to you about benefits that tourism has for research focused on the Great Barrier Reef. This is true, as tourism on the reef generates mass amounts of money which is used for research to protect the reef. She also said that tourism on the Great Barrier Reef is sustainable. Tourism on the reef is sustainable as it does not damage the reef but still allows tourists to enjoy the wonders of the Great Barrier Reef. Our second speaker spoke to you about how tourism on the Great Barrier Reef is a financial lifeline for locals and reef alike. The reef brings in 64,000 jobs, which helps the locals and the reef out. He also stated that this lucrative tourism industry creates generations of dedicated marine eco-warriors. Many people who visit the reef are so fascinated that they dedicate their lives to eco-warriors. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the Negative team believe that tourism on the reef should be encouraged and is not a threat to the reef. We the Negative team say tourism is the lifeline of the reef.
we have the times, please, timekeeper?
I now invite the educator, Ms. France, to come forward.
Okay, before I say anything, I hope both of you, both teams, feel really proud of yourselves for making it this far, and we hope to see you both next year as well. It was a unanimous decision tonight, so the three of us want to award the win to the Affirmative team, so congratulations. And we also want to award the Speaker of the Night to the third Affirmative, Lila.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
I'd like to thank the audience for being a very great audience, the chairman, the timekeeper, the adjudicator, our debate coaches, Mr. Charles and Ms. Plumridge, for giving up their lunchtime to help us, and of course the other team for their excellent points and great arguments.
I call upon a member of the winning team to second that vote of thanks.
We, Concordia College, would like to thank the opposition Sacred Heart for an engaging debate. You guys had really good points and I'd really like rebelling against you guys. We'd also like to thank the audience, our parents, teachers and friends for their support, as well as all of the adjudicators. And finally, we'd like to thank Nazareth College and Debating for hosting and Debating SA for hosting. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.